when you're self-employed, like you said, you have 300 customers or 400, that's our bosses. I tell my staff, I don't say you. It's through the clear door say you. I'm just I'm the conductor that, that runs the orchestra. And if I hear the trumpet playing the wrong tune, I got to fix it.
Welcome back to Elevate Your Business, a podcast where we discuss proven, transformative approaches to business growth and exit strategies. Join us as we talk to successful entrepreneurs, share new and profitable ideas, and help you grow wiser and wealthier so you can experience limitless success in both life and business. Now, here's your host, Adam Koch, business transition consultant and founder of Elevate and Exit at elevateandexit.com.
Hey everyone, so today we're having another episode of How I Built It with George Sortino, but you're going to have to bear with me. As you can hear, I sound terrible. I came down with a really bad sinus cold and potentially infection here, so bear with me as I try to speak and then hit the mute button frequently so I can get through this thing without coughing in your ear. But anyway, George Sortino is owner of Sortino Building Offices, S&S Hospitality Offices, Cedar Lanes, Laser Runner, Super 8 Sandusky, Melissa's Barbershop. He's a franchise owner to Holiday Inn Express and Suites. He owns the Thirsty Pony Restaurant, Bar, and the Off-Track Sportsbook in Cedar Downs. Born in Sicily and made in America, as he likes to put it, George is not only a successful entrepreneur, but just a good down-to-earth guy who epitomizes the spirit of the old-school business owner. And I'd have to say that's probably his cheat code, to be honest. But you'll learn that and a whole lot more in this episode of How I Built It with serial enterprise builder George Sortino. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got George Sortino, a man who's created some incredible Italian food that's next to none, a prosperous entrepreneur, and a man who's been through a ridiculously successful business exit 4 times over, we'll call it. Born in Sicily and made in America, George Sortino, thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be a ton of fun.
My honor.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And as always, the purpose of these How I Built It episodes is to talk to successful business owners, entrepreneurs, just like you, just to hear your story. So let's just jump right in here and start at the very, very beginning. I know we talked a little bit offline a couple weeks ago, but tell me about, where you grew up. What was childhood like for you?
Well, happy, pretty sure. I came to America when I was 7 years old. My father had a broken heart. He lost his wife, but I lost my mother in 1948, and he wanted to start a new life. So he get away from the surroundings of the memories. So so he came to America. He landed in New York City, Blue Ellis Island. He spent a little while there in Mulberry Street, Italy. My father was a poor thinking man, and he said, if I stay in the neighborhood, I'm never going to be able to speak English. So we chose, as he would call it, he chose Sandusky O'Neill, my godfather, my kumbari. His best friend was already in Sandusky, and he was in the restaurant as well. So we came to Sandusky from All-American City, and we started our life here with my 2 sisters, and my little brother, Jimmy. He joined the family 7 years later when he was born. So, realizing he's been in O'Neill.
No, I might have missed it. What did your dad do?
My dad's name was George Sortino. I have a son named Miguel who operates my company now. My father was a businessman in Monica, Sicily. He had a little small store, like a newspaper stand operation where you come in and get the newspapers for the day. He brought in all of the papers from Rome, Milano, Catania, Palermo. He also, he especially was, back in them days, he didn't throw your pens away. He went to go see Miguel Sortino, and he fixed the fountain pens for you, and the typewriters. And he also had the only phone. I shouldn't say the only phone, but he was one of the few people that had a phone, a phone line. You're talking 1948, 1950, 52, and and people would come in and use the phone. Of course, he would recommend that you buy something, you coffee, have an espresso, and get your fountain pen or your typewriter fixed. So, and he always brought in the new stuff. So, uh, and it's the way I did everything for us.
Yeah. Was there anything you experienced early in life that initially ignited your entrepreneurial fire, so to speak, or your burning desire to succeed? You know, that made you think, I'm going to start a business someday, or I'm going to be a business owner?
Well, I think it's in our bloodline and in our heritage and in our family heritage. We're all, uh, if you go back to Moldova, where I'm from, my family is in the food and beverage business there. They're in the lodging business there. Uh, Everybody's self-employed, and so it was just kind of a natural thing for us to do. Uh, enjoy doing what we're doing. I never looked at that I'm going to make a lot of money. And it's always an opportunity. Problems become opportunities. That's the way we looked at it, and every time there's a problem, we turn it into a profit center instead.
Yeah. So you kind of always knew you were going to be a business owner.
Yeah, it was just I never worked for anybody. When I was a little, I drove a dairy truck for Esmond Dairy, and I dropped uh, the ice cream and the milk. You see the point? I had that route.
Ah,
And I was 16 years old, and that was my summer job. I told him I could drive a stick shift. I didn't want to drive a stick shift. I just drove it on second gear all the way up to see the point. By the time I got there, everything looked like Milkshake City, But I found something for it and kept on going. And that was one of my first jobs. And prior to that, actually, I worked with my father. Brought my two sisters went back to Sicily to get married. You had to marry your own nationality. It was very important to keep that heritage going.
oh,
And my brother-in-law was a mechanic and raced cars. And so at the age of 12, I I greased cars and changed oil and changed the shoes in the car. And I got $1 a day. And I used to say, Papa, I says, Maron, this guy, yeah, I love him. He said, what's the matter with you? You should be paying him. You're going to learn a trade. And the less he pays you, the better your sister lives, because I didn't need any money because I lived at home and clothes on my back and cost every day. So there's no such thing as an allowance.
did you have a favorite job growing up?
That's a good question. Uh, uh, Working at the gas station, I was like, I don't, I'm much older than you, but I was more like Happy Days, Fonzarelli, the Fonz.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, and I think one of my favorite jobs was when I used to hang around with a lot of Italians, and I used to be a runner uh, for the bookies,
That's right.
take bets, and I'd run the tickets for them, and then I got a little bit of juice out of it. So I was
That's
always
great.
around characters.
That's wonderful. I
They
love it.
call it Las Vegas now.
Yeah. You gotta be careful out there, right? So you're
It's
surrounded
crazy.
by it.
I said something. I'm in the last 9 holes of my life, but I'm enjoying myself. But now besides having been being known for Sortino's restaurant, uh, I'm in the booking business. We have sports book. So now,
Oh, really?
yeah. So I'm doing everything legitimate.
That's
Yeah,
that's not bad. Yeah. I didn't
yeah,
know
we
you
have
did
a great.
sportsbook as well.
Yeah, we have it at the entrance to Cedar Point. We have a restaurant, bar, sports complex called Thirsty Pony, and then the site called Bet Thirsty. Yeah, so you have off-track betting. You can bet on the horses. 16 tracks come in just about every day. Then of course you can bet on football, soccer, uh, whatever, tennis, heads or tails, whatever you want to do.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a great property. It's right at the entrance to Cedar Point. It's a resort called Pony, Cedar Lane, Cedar Down, Cedar Corner, uh, and a nice hotel attached to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so even in your retired days, right, you're still running a business.
Well, I've never, I like to say I never worked a day in my life. This has always been my hobby. So I'm still very active. I think it's important to stay active. Because now you get rusty. Your mind goes
Yep.
bad and your bones hurt more. So
You're a smart man. And what we do for a living here, we see that a lot, unfortunately, more than we'd like to. But you got to stay sharp, right? You got to do something that you don't have to be passionate about it, but I think that something that interests you, I think sitting around and watching TV all day isn't good for anybody.
I you get, having relationships with many people, that's the best gift of all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's step back for a second. What prompted you to initially start the business?
Out of high school, back in my day, you had to go to you were drafted. I went in the Marine Corps, so I went to Paris Island, and when I got out, my father said, "You're going to learn a trade, or you're going to go to school." There was no uh, there was a respect and discipline, and I said, "Blah blah. I want to be like you. I want to be a barber." I didn't want to be a barber. I just want. I just wanted. I didn't want him to put an adjustment on me, So I went to barber school. When I came back to barber school, I went I opened up. I worked with my dad in the barber shop. So I did hairstyling, razor cutting, sculpture cutting, hair pieces, cascade wigs. That's how I learned the trade. And one of our shops, uh, we had two shops, and one of them was in City Point Marina. And there's a gentleman that owned a little small hotel. They had a stroke, and he would walk the marina, and then he would come in the bar shop and get shaved. And some days I would shave him, some days my papa would shave him. And one day he said to me, "Kid, you want to buy a hotel?" I said, "Well, Mr. Klein, you named the price, then you named the terms, and we got yourself a deal." I said, why don't you keep the hotel in the summer, fill the bathtub full of money, and you don't have to watch it drain all winter. We'll take the expenses and give you small payments in the winter and the larger payments in June, July, and August during the season. And back in them days, he just took a liking to us and believed in us. And he carried the note, and we ended up in the hotel business.
Wow.
Small 32-unit property called the Riviera Motel. And then years later, there was an outlot next to it, and we asked him to release the lot. And I could take the lot and pledge it to the bank, and we build Sortino's trattoria on it, Mediterranean lounge, and my barbershop with my father was in the rear, so the lounge became the waiting room. So so when they wait for a haircut, they'd have a couple beers, hopefully, yeah.
Perfect.
And that's how and how we got into the restaurant business. Italians love to cook anyway. My passion of cooking was because I like girls, so it's, hey, okay, everybody buzz the app. I cook a nice low cost, but instead. So one of my children was born. We celebrated in Cleveland, Ohio, and there's a restaurant there owned by a Greek guy. And my wife always laughs about it because I would order a dating martini, and she would order a grasshopper, and the grasshopper was for me. But I want the guys to know that I've been drinking a poo-poo.
That's funny.
So I've been drinking out of her side, the grasshopper, and she'd be drinking the dirty martini. Now I drink dirty martini. What the hell? Good old awesome. But that's how it all started. I looked at the menu, I looked at the pasta. I said to Nancy, I call her Nunzi in Italian. I said, Nunzi, this guy should have a mask on. He's stealing money. What do you mean? He's doing $8. I'm going back 50 years ago. She's getting $8 for what we eat because we're poor. Pasta, linguine with onion oil, pasta with garlic and oil. And I said, I'm going to open up a restaurant. And that's how it all started. Uh, 6 different shaped noodles, two sauces. Gnocchi with marinara, calastelli with marinara, you know, fettuccine with a carne Alfredo sauce. And that's how it all started. When we came into the trattoria, what we got famous for was when you came in, I always felt people are hungry. when you come in, you're hungry. So the antipasto was sitting at the table for you right off the bat with bread, one bread.
Huh.
And a jug of wine was sitting at the table for you.
Great idea.
Yeah, it was called an honor jug. You sit down, the wine is there, you pour yourself whatever you want. We tested you on a per glass basis. And the cheese and the mozzarella and the prosciutto and the supersada and the olives were sitting on the table with you. And you celebrated right off the bat. And then even if you didn't get acknowledged, it was already there for you, you know? That's how it became famous. And then whatever dish of the day we had, because I didn't have much money. So whatever I took in that day, the next day I'd go to the store. Boom, you know?
That's brilliant, though. To
Yeah.
start not only with bread, but to have some wine and like an honor system almost, to have some wine,
It was
some
an honor
pasta.
system. People, you know, back then, it was like $3, not even, I think, is a buck and a half a glass, you know. The whole jug was Gatto, Paisano, Crambari. The whole jug cost $5. Right? Even if they teach you out of a glass, you couldn't go up. After 3 glasses, you're better off buying the whole jug then, you know.
Yeah.
So that's
Talk about how difficult it was to start in the beginning, just getting started.
You know, when you're moving forward in life, and my hours I had, I never measured them. You know, you start early in the morning and you close late at night. I think the labor of love that you have with your family is what keeps you going. Hopefully, everything was working and you made a couple bucks. But I remember when you do relationships, one of the stories I can share with you I had in my life was that when I opened up the trattoria, I was in the Marine Corps with a friend of mine, and his father was he's a wholesaler, and he knew that I was buying food every day. And one day the truck showed up with it's probably about back then probably about $5,000 worth of food. You know, the olive oil and the cheeses and the tomatoes, the Parmesan tomatoes. I didn't have that kind of money. And I said, Joey, but you know I can't pay it. You see, my father said, this is a gift for you. If you succeed, you pay us. If you don't, it's a gift. It's a gift. And
Wow.
that's what kept us going. And I never told him all of it. No.
Come on.
I still buy from him.
What about hours? How much time would you say you were putting in the per week?
Well, you know, when you're in I was already in the hotel business. You know, the hotel was there, the barbershop was there, and the restaurant was there. The hours to put in the beginning, before you open, is when you're working hard. After you open, you come in with your bride, your children, and I'm the host. You know, prepping. You know, just like having your boss over when you have your special people over your house. You clean all day and you prepare all day. And Sam serve the dinner. That's the fun part. You know. But just to share, you remind me of a story of when I started. We had a shuttle service to the airport. We have a small airport. At the time, it was called Griffin Airport. And I put a sign on the station wagon, airport shuttle. Every time they called, I put the sign up there, on the station. So 2 miles down the road, as you see the point, I picked this guy up and with his wife, and evidently with somebody because he already had his own airplane. He weather was bad. So I pick him up. I bring him to the hotel, register in, I bring his luggage to the room, and he gave me $2. I said, thank you, sir. So he ain't going nowhere. He's stuck because he's got no other way to go. And he sees in his room that it said, a little sign that said, I need your head in my business. Call for appointment, for reservation. So he dials the number, and I answer the barbershop. He doesn't know it's me, which is Continental Blue Room, so we called it. He said, can you get me in? I said, yeah, I can get you in about 45 minutes, sir. Come on down where you stay at the hotel to see from the call. So he comes in, he comes over, he looks at me and he said, what are you doing? He said, I'm a barber. He said, my God, you work hard. He said, so give me a little trim. If you got time, I'll take a shave. If not, just shampoo it. No. So anyway, I do the thing. He gives me $10. they timed me. It's $4,
Yeah.
because that night he comes in the restaurant to the trattoria. The trattoria was upstairs. The Mediterranean Lounge was downstairs. He said, "How many?" He just said, "Madonna mia, it's you again." I said, "Yeah, I worked the restaurant at night too." So he ate at the restaurant. Uh, the next morning, he can't go to work because the weather's still bad. He's across the street. We have a Howard Johnson's restaurant across the street that we assumed at least because unfortunately the people that were running it, he passed away.
Wow.
He comes in to have breakfast and he looks at me and says, "It's you again." He says, "Listen, tell me one thing. I need to rent a car. U-Haul. Is there a place around here again? And promise me you're not going to be there." So I took him there. I says, "Incidentally, this is my brother-in-law place. The guy that taught me how to do the mechanics."
That's a great story. When did you end up selling the hotel, or did you ever sell it?
No, the Riviera Motel, I had a picture there on the wall. The Riviera Motel, we kept it for 25 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we sold it. We like paying things off, I guess, and we sold it at an installment sale. So we became the bank.
Yeah. And then how long after that did you sell Sortino's?
Oh my goodness! But the hotel, we ended up with a lot of franchises. We ended up the
Oh.
economy brands. Yeah, we went from the Riviera Motel, then it became the Friendship Inn, but then we ended up with Days End. We ended up with
Mhm.
Motel 6, the Kalahari, Super 8,
Yep.
uh, Quality Inn. Now we have a Holiday Inn. But we had like 8, 9 hotels at the time. And
Wow.
and then the lot the lot in the back was an orphanage where I'm sitting right now. This is an historical building. This was an orphanage. The big building that I'm broadcasting with you is where the company's at, and next door is the original Sortino's.
No way. The original one.
Yeah, the original one. And when we looked at it, we took the orphans out come and get a job. Like that. They're only 9 years old. If they start a business, you got to go. I need to join. I'm just kidding. So we moved the restaurant into the the smaller or there's the big building is where I'm at right now is was the boys where the boys stayed, in the smaller building where the restaurant at or was the little girl.
Oh, wow. That's
And
really
to
cool.
this and to this day, there's still people that are in their 80s and 90s. Uh, they remember when they were little kids that they grew up here because they had no parents. They
Oh,
just
wow. That's really cool. How long did it take before, when you started Sortino's, how long did it take before you felt like you were profitable enough to relax a little bit?
Yeah, we made money because we worked it. The restaurant business is a tough business to make money.
Yes, it is.
Do you have to be serious dollar. You end up with like an 89% profit. So taking $3-4 million, you got to make it a
Yeah.
couple grand, and you're working 70 hours a week. In Italian, it's called. I have it on my wall up there. I can't see it, but it says "L'occhio del patrone ingassa il cavallo," which means the eye of the owner fattens the horse. You don't keep an eye on the horse. It goes astray, it eats everything up, and there goes your profit.
I love
So,
that quote.
yeah, l'occhio del patrone ingassa il cavallo. I have two sayings in my office. L'occhio del patrone ingassa il cavallo, and the other one is called "Better meglio di campare un giorno come un orione di 100 anni come una crepa," which better to live one day like a lion than 100 years like a sheep.
I love it. I love quotes. That's awesome. I've never honestly, of all the hundreds of quotes that I've collected, I've never had Italian quotes before, so that's a first.
Yeah, those are two Italian quotes. That's a pretty famous one. The "L'occhio del patrone." So it's in the European world. The lion one actually came from my father gave me that one, and it was during Mussolini days
Yeah.
before he got whacked or hung. He stood in front of the balcony and he said that to people that they have to live one day like an lion.
And going out with a bang.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you talked about family earlier, having a, starting your family pretty young. And, I know from personal experience that running a business and having family is difficult. You've got your person, well, I guess tell me about your personal struggles when it came to taking care of your customers, running the business, all while trying to be a good boss, trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good dad. You're basically being pulled in what, 3, 4 different directions at once. And I'm sure, I don't know if you're anything like me, but it feels like you kind of fall short in all of them. At least that's how it feels for me a lot of the time. Tell me about your experience.
Well, that's why you need a good wife.
Yeah.
I have a
Touche.
good partner. Yeah, a good partner, a good woman, who doesn't expect her husband to be home on time and be happy about it. There's many dinners at 6 o'clock because, where I grew up with a traditional, respectful upbringing, and when everybody sat at the table waiting for Papa to show up and then we could get bread. There's many days that I couldn't make it because I was busy. I was busy at the restaurant. I was busy at the hotel. Uh, Whatever opportunities arise, I try to look at opportunities as a proper center. I look at problems as opportunities. Uh, but what I, my children got to know me when they got a little older. We joined the business and we all worked together.
Nice.
So I got to embrace them years later. But the first 7 to 10 years, Mama raised them.
Yeah.
I stood up a little bit. I gave them the evil eye, but their big name is the Hammer. That's the reason they call her the Hammer. I used to be 6'4".
You said used to be. That's funny. Do you have
No,
any regrets at all when it comes to family and running a business?
and the greatest story in life, one of the greatest stories in life uh, is to see your children raised around the business, and they look at you as your hero. They can, let's face it, Pop's the best. He can fix anything. The greatest disappointment is your children are sick, and they look at you and you can't fix it.
I think my kids have already learned that out the being a good fixer or good with my hands. I think it skips a generation because my dad was good at it, but I'm not. So hopefully they'll be good at it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's good to learn to say today. I think you can make a damn good living. Of
Yeah.
course, that.
When you look back over the years, what would you say were the best parts of growing the business?
The joy of the relationship that you meet. I mean, I've met some incredible people, and uh, I, I, I know people say, well, you cook for this celebrity or you cook for this politician. I didn't make that dish any better for the president of the United States than I did for Joe Sixpack. But it's an honor to be able to know that you created a relationship with some people. So people, my 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 walk of life, meeting people, my business card says make a friend today, make a deal tomorrow. So I just think they call it. I call it. I know a guy that knows a guy. Now they call it influencing. I guess. So, but the relationship that I built over the years is kind of the most rewarding.
That's great. I mean, obviously that's how I met you.
Yeah,
And you don't
exactly.
even own the business. You
Yeah.
sold it, and here you
They
are.
sold me. They sold my life story to the Kalahari group. Eventually we'll be in all the Kalaharis. But in Cleveland right now, we're building the fourth one in Wisconsin, the original, and then the fifth one is they just broke ground in Virginia Beach area, Petersburg area.
Yeah, but I guess my point is that, you're obviously you sold the restaurant, you sold it to Kalahari Group. You're gonna have 4 of these things now around the country, but you're still making relationships. And
Oh,
we're having this conversation right now because twice now in 2 years, I came with my family, and not only is the food freaking phenomenal, I'm talking like some of the best Italian I've ever in my life. But and then you know what? Come to think of it, I wonder if that's kind of an Italian thing, not to stereotype in a good way, obviously, but it's like, here in town in Columbus, Ohio, there's this place people always talk about Pasqualone's being like the best Italian in town, and what's the other one? I forget. Moretti's on Sawmill, and the owner is always there and always building relationships and talking to the people. I wonder if that's something has something to do with the success.
I truly believe in that. I always tell people, not everybody's got a table, everybody's got a chair. Everybody's got a glass. The difference is they had you serving it. And the individual that gives the personality to the menu that goes with it. You know, I could make, we could both make the same spaghetti, and I present it with my style, and it's going to taste better. It's just the way, it's just an image situation. But yeah, totally believe in that. Yeah. Well, back to my slogan, loca de patrone and gusta cavallo. Yeah, the owner fans the horse. You got to watch it. Yeah.
Personally, it's the Diavolo that got me, but
Yeah, well, the devil's
I like my spicy stuff, and you guys killed it.
That's the devil. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the devil makes.
What about the toughest times you experienced? I'm sure there's no shortage. I mean, that's one of the things I think that one of my favorite stories to tell is this is years and years ago. I remember us sitting down and hanging out with a bunch of friends over at a bar after at the end of the night, and somebody looks over to me and says, "Oh, it must be nice being a business owner. You don't have a boss. You can do whatever you want." And I said, "Well, that's not true. I've got like 300 bosses. They're called clients, you know." So it's not as it may seem, and I think it's you often feel like you're in an island when you run a business because you don't have people to kind of always talk to and share the tough times with, let alone celebrate the successes. So, what were some of those toughest times for you?
Well, the toughest times for me were when you stretch yourself out financially. I tell a slogan that if I owed the bank $100, I worried about it. Now that I own $10 million, they worry about me. so,
Touche. Yeah, exactly.
so, but making that commitment, sometimes we take chances, and whatever is necessary is never a risk. But when you're self-employed, like you said, you have 300 customers or 400, uh, that's our bosses. I tell my staff, I don't pay. We still have 150 people that work in our company. Uh, I don't pay you. It's through the clear door pay you. I'm just I'm the conductor that runs the orchestra. And if I hear the trumpet playing the wrong tune, I got to fix it.
I love that. You know what? I feel like the more I talk to you, the more I feel like you've got the cheat code figured out. It's not the food. It's the relationship. Something we say here all the time is that if without our clients, we wouldn't exist.
I'll give you an example, Adam. The other day, I was walking into the polling. I took up the revenue when I'm here sometimes. Outside, there was I don't know if you can see this or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little circle. And it's the top of the kegs, a beer. We sell out of beer at the point. We sell about 20 kegs a week out there. So, but they were all outside. And I'm saying to myself, how many of my people walked by there and didn't pick them up? You know what I did? I took a $20 bill and I put it underneath one of them. So if somebody would pick them up, they would have got the $20. 6 hours later, I'm walking through there. There must have been server, kitchen staff, maintenance people, drivers are delivering. And none of them picked it up. My maintenance guy,
Wow.
my maintenance guy was with me. I said, "Come here, I want to show you something." He picked it up. The 20 was all wet because he saw, I give him the $20. That's amazing. Same thing. The way people are there. If somebody would pick that up, that's the person I would have kept in mind to promote because he's doing the right thing when no one's looking.
Well, here's a big one to unpack. What or to what do you attribute the success you achieved in a very, very long, prosperous life of multiple businesses? You call you a serial entrepreneur, right? But what would you think was the biggest attribute you had that helped you do it all?
My father taught me to be humble, and it's not my job. Is the 11th commandment to failure when they say that? The little thing, I tell the story in one of my interviews. A grandfather comes in with his grandson. His son's about 6, 7 years old. He's got an attitude because we don't have pizza, and he's making his life miserable. When we grew up, my grandpa would have given me an adjustment, but now there's too many cameras. so, so I went out the back door, and we have a pizzeria across the street. It's called a Brick Oven. We cook with wood there. One of my partners. I made a little small piece. I come in the back door, and I put it on my plate, and I brought it to the table. That memory will last with that family forever, because it's something you don't have to do. You know, I remember another time when I first started, it was a law firm in town, pretty well-known law firm. They do a lot of class action lawsuits. And I was honored that they come over to the trattoria to eat. And the father of the family wanted orange sherbet. I don't have orange sherbet. I got spumoni. This is an Italian joint, cannolis and spumoni. And the waiter said, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't." I said, "No, we got it, Johnny. We got it." What do you mean? I go out the back door, downstairs, run across the street to Howard Johnson's. They got 28 flavors. And I brought a nice little tray, a bowl of orange sherbet to the table. And he was just overwhelmed. He didn't know what I did. So I come back about 15 minutes later. I said, "Did you enjoy the sherbet?" He said, "Georgie," always called me Georgie. "Georgie, that was so good, I'll have another one." Not on me.
Oh no.
But those are the things that you do, that make the difference,
And I love that you did that. These are things you did, but you didn't, like you said, being humble earlier.
Yeah.
You did it, but you're not like walking around with a sign that says, "Hey, by the way, I ran across the street."
No, you don't have to. Definitely, stop bragging,
Yeah.
Today, social media destroys young people. My father, when he played poker, in the little Italian game, they didn't pay for much. They didn't have much money, but they paid for the enjoyment of hanging out with the boys. Well, one day he made a big story. He won like $1,000. I'm going back 60, 70 years ago, where he never told anybody. 60 years later, 60, 70 years in Georgia, he said, "There's no one that's happy for you. The only person that's happy is the people that love you and your closest of friends." Now today, they have to brag, Still pray yourself. Or else they get jealous. And jealous is worse than cancer.
Oh man. Yeah. There's a huge difference between jealousy and envy, right?
Yeah.
One is really, really bad, and the other one's not so bad. But what about are you much of a reader? Have you ever liked to read books, business books, anything like that?
I like successful books. I used to sell a course called Dare to Be Great.
Mm-hmm.
Like Glenn Turner, the guy's name was one of my, and I used to walk around with $100 bills on my lapel. You saw how successful you were.
Good conversation builder.
Conversation builder, yeah. Because I would fly you into Orlando, and it was motivation. I know you're in the investment business, and one of the examples I did, I took that $100 bill and put it on the forecourt for the client that I had. And I said, "Hey, Johnny," says, "You mind picking up that 100?" And I take a dollar bill and I put it next to it. And he would say, "You mind picking up that dollar?" So he'd pick up the dollar, and I'd bend over and I'd pick up the 100. And you see, we're both using the same energy. What do you want to pick up dollars when you can pick up hundreds?
I love it. That's a great exercise. When you, I think I know the answer to this one, but looking back at the very beginning and where you are today, do you feel like you met or exceeded the level of success you initially hoped for when you first got started?
Everything that I've done in my life was more on the defensive side of it than the offensive side. I get into the hotel business, and then it was a seasonal business. And so, when we had all these properties, it only lasted 2 months. And like I said, you fill the bathtub full of money, and then you watch it drain all winter,
Yeah.
I got into the bowling business. So we ended up with 3 bowling centers. Bowling is a business that's in the off season. And then I got into the swim center business. Then I got into the warehouse business. Uh, so it was all based on how you don't have to be too smart. You can be 12 years old and see the point opens up, and all you can say is $99 every day, and you're going to fill it up. back then it was more on traffic count than today's reservation system. And the pay and all the other reservations it's on. You can book on hotel.com and so on and so forth. But I had to say to myself, how can I offset that cash flow that I can not feed it? So when I got into the other businesses, that balances us out, and then all of a sudden we have a surplus, some positive revenue coming in. Then we go to see people that have experience like you and say, what can you do with this money for 9 months?
I feel like we could do a whole nother podcast just on all the other things you did outside the restaurant.
Yeah, that's
Jeez.
that's how we got it. It wasn't that I was in the gas station business too. Back in the day, when Jimmy Carter destroyed this country. Not that I want to get political with you, because this guy we got now is making Jimmy Carter look good, but we didn't have any gas. So I tell a story that talk about relationship. A gentleman, uh, he had a distributorship of gas. His name was George, as a matter of fact. He was ill. And when someone's ill, I would go to the hospital and I would shave them and cut their hair as a gesture of goodwill.
Wow.
And I didn't want nothing for it. If they gave me money, then that goes to goodwill,
Right.
That's Ty Nelson, the owner of Kalahari. I did a favor and he wanted a Tiffany. And I said, no. Someday I'll call you for a favor. But,
Yeah.
and so five, maybe 7 years later, I'm in the hotel business with the first days in. We were doing Jimmy Carter's administration and we couldn't get gas. Gasoline was available. You wouldn't pay anything as long as you can get gas. If you can't get gas, you can't go home. And I went to George and I said, can you help me? I need some gas from my gas station. He said, George, I never forget what you did for me. You came to the hospital and you cut my hair and you shaved me. He said, what do you need? I said, well, I just need 500 gallons. He gave me a whole transit of gas, like 8,000 gallons in a tank. I said, Mr. Van Dyke, that son was Van Dyke. I said, I can't pay you. I can pay you a little bit at a time. He said, listen, you keep it for the whole season. And I guarantee, stay with me at day's end and you get a tank full of gas to go home on. That's how I got in. And I was able to get more money for my loans on top of
What
it.
a great story. Yeah.
All because I did a gesture,
Right. Something so small came back full circle.
Something small, yeah.
Yeah.
That time they wanted me to build a hotel in Duluth, Ohio for the Cleveland Browns. The guy ahead of it was sick at the clinic. I did the same thing for him. And one day he calls me, I'm getting ready to cut the deal, and he said, don't make a move until I get out. Pick up the paper 2 days later. Cleveland Browns were moving to Baltimore.
That was a day that will live forever in my mind as one of the worst days of my childhood.
Yeah,
I'll
well,
never forget that.
I would have been broke today if I would have done that one. But you do things. The best exercise for your heart is to give and don't expect anything back for it.
Yep. You got to be wired that way, I feel, though. I mean, it's one thing to do it intentionally because you know it's the right thing to do. It's another thing to do it just because that's who you are. So for those people that are looking to start a business, what advice would you give them if they were to ask for the single biggest contributor to what help you succeed as an entrepreneur?
Well, I don't know. Things are a little different now. They're different, but there's more opportunity. There's more lazy people in my day. But the advice my father gave me, I had $87.30 payment in my car. It was called a Pontiac Catalina, and on side it said "Bad news traveled fast." When I paid for it, he told me to continue to make the same payment. Don't get used to having that money. He said, just round it up to $100, and I put it into I know you're in the investment, but if I'm not mistaken, and wealth management. And I took that $100 and I put it into an account called Dreyfus. Used to be open.
Yep.
That's right. For 20 some years, $100 a month. And all of a sudden, and to this day, when I pay off a FF&E furniture, fixture, and equipment package, I still make the same payment to my savings account. So it's called money management. And if you learn how to manage your money and you have the ability to get smart financing, if you're 8% smart, you can't borrow 9% money.
Yeah. Well, especially these days, right? It's like, so that's brilliant. So you basically, you're not necessarily trying to do everything with cash, but don't live beyond your means. Don't get too excited about that money you're making.
I believe 25% below your means. I also make my payments. Back then it was based on floating rate with a cap. I don't want to be a smart guy with it, you could teach me,
No,
but
you're fine. Yeah.
and my payment was based on 20-year amortization. I made the payment based on 15 years. So when the flow went up high, I was able to make the payment because I was accustomed. When I made the 25% more, I was knocking more off equity. When it was moving up, I was still making the same payment. It didn't break me. So,
Yeah.
so I think money management is and financing, uh, and know the business, know every aspect of the business.
And cash flow management is, what you're talking about here too, just managing cash flow intelligently.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I go to Vegas. I gamble a little bit, but I trim in my bet. I start at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 150. I'll go bust and I go right back down to $10. Because you're going to win more money than hands. So if you can win more money than hands, you got to learn how to manage it and then learn how to play the game, Mike. Yeah.
Well, last question for you. For those people who are already running a business, whether it be for 5 years or 15 years or 50 years, and they're feeling stuck or they plateaued in the business, what advice would you give them based on your experiences and the tough times you went through to get unstuck and take things to the next level?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I think you have to have a team. I, I'm so blessed to have a son that I mentored, and he knows everything that I've taught him. That's what he knows, and makes him smarter than me now. Like, and that's that. And have those people around you. You got to be hungry for it. I think the achievement of life is it's not a question of wanting more. Listen, I always say I got 6 centuries of money changing your life, so it's cool. But that's not the idea. Is I just love I, loving the chase and create. I'll be eating this coming summer.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I
Good for 80. You don't look
yeah,
like you're 80.
I'm marinated. I just feel like I just started. So I enjoy doing what I do. Well,
Yeah.
so I don't think it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. Then they call you lucky.
What's the Tiger Woods quote? The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wondered if that was going to be your answer, actually. Just that, it's just that burning, like actually full circle, like we started, that burning desire to succeed that, there's no way I'm going to let this thing fail. And you just figure it out at the end of the day.
When you look to the top, go take the first step up and you'll get to the top. If you look at the top only, you're never going to get there.
Well, I've got check this out. I've still got
No,
your business card, huh?
I got it here too.
Well, thank you so much. I think that's about our time for today. Visiting customers in person, the relationships you've built throughout your life. I think it's pretty safe to say that not only have you been or become a real true hero to your kids, but I think that anyone who hears this story, there's cheat codes throughout this entire episode that we just had. You've got so many good golden nuggets to share, and I'm so glad that we did this. In fact, this interview was way more than I ever thought it would be. So you're truly an inspiration to other entrepreneurs like me and business owners, and I hope a lot of people learn from all you shared today.
Well, thank you, Adam. I know my grandchildren enjoy. That's the next generation going for me. So it's great to be alive and do it with my eyes open.
Yeah, that's right. As I always say, there's thousands of podcasts out there, and you chose to give hours a listen today. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. To complete our free business valuation quiz or to set up an introduction call, just head over to elevateandexit.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, financial, tax, or as a basis for investment decisions. Always consult a professional business transition planning consultant or a certified exit planning advisor before implementing any of the ideas shared in this episode.